Here we are with the dandelion. The bigger ones really have a nice sweetness. Every part of this plant is edible except for the stem. Dandelion leaves are high in vitamin A, potassium, aid in digestion. They're very bitter. Put some salad dressing. Bitters are really good for you. Bitters stimulate active stomach acid. It's a taproot, so it's got one root that it just taps down in. They can be fried up in a pan with some oil for a tasty vegetable, or dried out and then lightly roasted, ground up, brewed up like tea to make a really nice dark, bitter coffee substitute. There's no caffeine. Today, our goal is gathering flowers from making wine. The last bottle of dandelion wine from last year. Cheers. Ooh, it tastes great. This video is gonna be the first part in a 3-part series. We're gonna show you the ins and outs of winemaking. There are a lot of different opportunities to make a creative choice, but there are some principles that you've gotta follow, and there are some steps that need to be taken. What we're gonna cover today is gathering, and then what's required to take it home and process it. Try to gather the plant at the right time of year so that you're not interrupting the growth cycle, and we could gather in a way that will increase the future productivity of the plant. On a sunny day, dandelions are going to open up more and be more full of pollen, flavor, color, and nutrients. There is a magic day when they're all open and they haven't gone to seed, usually around the 1st or 2nd week of May. You don't need to pick every yellow petal. You'll see a lot of people who will say you need to pick the petals off the bract, and they say that this green is gonna make bitter wine and the yellow is where the magic is. Every bract? We're making 5 gallons of wine at a time. I've been making wine for years. You don't have to pick that green off. Pick them on a sunny day and process them right away. Here we are now. We've got all these dandelions. We already dumped them into the bucket. And we're shooting for 5 gallons, and I'm going for about 3 gallons of flowers. So we want this bucket to be essentially 3/5 full of dried flowers. You're not gonna push them down in any way. We're creating a flavor base. What we're gonna do is make a very strong dandelion flower tea. So all we're gonna do is pour boiling water. You don't have to cook the flowers. So you're gonna leave about 2 inches in the top of the bucket. Fill the bucket almost all the way full with boiling water. So this is the dandelion tea, and they're gonna sit here just in their water for 3 days, and it's really important to stir every day. Stir this once a day for 3 days. Now it's 3 days later. This has taken on really nice smell. Very grassy. It's a really nice yellow. We're gonna strain out all the flowers. I think the towel is superior to this strainer, which cost me $30. So this is a clean bath towel. I put a rubber band around here, but what I often do is I'll do the 2-foot, the double foot secure method. And then we're gonna pour the juice, so there's gonna be some splashing.
Don't wear your favorite socks.
The great thing about this method is you can use this method to make wine from a whole bunch of different things. Now I'm gonna carefully pick up one side and wrap up the other side, and then squeezing. All right, so there's the juice, and now we've got to sweeten it. All the things that we're gonna forage, flowers, fruits, everything's got sugars and yeast in it. So you can do what's called a wild ferment, where you just essentially let it go. But in order to create something really drinkable that's going to be in the 12 to 14% alcohol range, we're going to add more sugar from the store, and we're going to add commercial yeast. We are trying to make alcohol that works. You know, modern wine is unique to modern civilization. So alcohol is certainly not unique to civilized societies. Around the world, throughout time, people have made booze. But when you buy a bottle of wine, Chianti Classico, there's a lot of sugar, special yeast, wild yeast killer, yeast nutrients, stabilizers, pectic enzymes, little acid blends. I'm trying to cut out as much of that as I can. And I want to make something that people are going to actually enjoy. And that's why we're using this commercial sugar. And we're going to use a lot of it. Between 2 and 2.5 pounds per gallon, depending on the initial sugar content of the material that you're using to ferment. Grapes are often used to make wine because they have such a high sugar content. Dandelion flowers will need more sugar.
1 bag that's 10 pounds of sugar. Just use that whole bag.
Dump the bag. We want to dissolve the sugar Don't just add granulated sugar to this cold bucket of juice, because the sugar will just sink to the bottom. So what I do is put a little bit in a pot. We're gonna put our sugar into the juice and let it dissolve, then add it back. When we add it back to the bucket, we're gonna have to let it cool before we can add the yeast. Because this is a living being and it will not survive a high temperature. And then there's another thing to think about, which is this thing, which I don't really know how to use.
I was literally just looking it up.
You're gonna teach me how to use it. This is this tool that measures the specific gravity.
Specific gravity refers to the purity of water. The impurity that we're measuring is sugar. And what we're doing, essentially, is measuring the predicted alcohol content. And we're going to figure it out someday.
It also has like a little idiot reading. The only one that I ever look at is the potential alcohol by volume, which is admittedly a rough estimate. Potential alcohol by volume is only going to happen if all the sugar ferments into alcohol. So the yeast eats the sugar and makes alcohol. So if all the yeast eats all the sugar and makes all the alcohol, you have this potential alcohol by volume, which this is a number that makes sense to me. 5% ABV, 10% ABV. You don't want to turn this to jelly. You just want to make sure that your sugar is fully dissolved. Give the last little bit a little swirl. We want to take all the sugar and put it in the bucket.
And water's density does change as you heat it, so you're going to want to wait until it cools before you take the measurement.
The potential alcohol by volume is right about 16%. If all goes according to plan, this is going to be pretty boozy, but it's probably not going to go according to plan. So I usually shoot for 15 or 16, hoping to end up with something that maybe is 12 or 13% alcohol by volume. Again, you could just do a wild ferment. You don't have to add sugar, you don't have to add yeast, you don't have to add yeast nutrient. You don't have to add all these other things that you could add that I might add to other batches of wine, but for this one, I'm keeping it simple. Don't worry about this. The yeast and the nutrient are both going to be dissolved in a little cup of warm water. There's the nutrient. So here's the yeast. Give it a little stir.
I don't think you have to worry about that. You're going to stir it so many times. Like, the yeast is going to be fine.
Okay, so now we've added the sugar, we let it cool, then we added the yeast and the yeast nutrient. Now we're going to leave it for the first stage of active fermentation. 3 to 10 days of open fermentation, where it's only covered with a towel. The towel is really important to prevent fruit flies.
And further inoculation, too, because other yeasts can inoculate.
This is what you want to see. I mean, this is just liquid. But if you give it a stir, which you should be stirring it every day, a little stir, you can tell that it's alive.
I wonder if I'm wearing the same shirt as last time. Maybe I should change my shirt.
We're ready now to put it in the jug. There isn't that much to this step. The funnel makes it a lot easier. And I will say that I've done this without a funnel. And it's a mess. So another bonus of this step is that the wine is being aerated. There are many steps where you want to kind of aerate the wine with oxygen. So it looks like it only goes to the top of the shoulder anyway. It's 5 gallons worth of dandelions and it's 10 pounds of sugar. We can add a little bit of water. You don't want to fill it much past the shoulder where it starts to get narrow, because we just stirred it up so much when we were pouring it. We did all that aeration. You can see that it got kind of foamy. We're gonna give it a day or so to settle before we fill it all the way to the top, because we don't want to pop the airlock. It's got this cup in there that floats. This thing is kind of gross looking. I don't know if I'm the perfect example. I did just clean this bottle. There are a few things that can go wrong. Most of them will be related to a lack of cleanliness. I want to emphasize the importance of cleanliness, but also say that even if you live in an apartment like us, you should just go ahead and give it a try. You push it down, comes back up. It's bubbling. So it's gonna stay there for about a month. Then we're gonna rack it again into a new jug and maybe do that again as it clarifies. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Hope that video wasn't too disjointed and choppy. I hope that you give this a try. Gather some fruit or flowers, whatever else is in season in your area. Hit us up with questions if you've got it. Stay tuned for part 2. Right? You can follow along and we can all make wine together. If you like this video, Please consider supporting us on Patreon for as low as $1 a month. The videos are free anyway. But we can use all the help. We could use it, and thank you.